Tēnā koutou katoa. I feel so privileged to be at this conference. I guess I didn't really know what to expect. I thought it would be like a conference at home. But yesterday was a bit overwhelming for me. The welcome ceremony, the presentations, and how it's been going today has been, I was thinking how hard I practiced and worked on my presentation, and after all that I've heard, it was, I sort of forget what I came to talk about almost. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself that's not on my bio. So in my early years, I lived a life with very little direction, no planning, and it wasn't sustainable. I was a drug addict. I didn't believe in education. I didn't believe in much. I thought I cared, but really what I cared about was getting high. I say that I lived to get high and got high to live, and I truly believed that. And it's funny to look back at it now, at my life, and think that's actually how I was. So this is me in my early years. You know, when you're a drug addict, it kills that thing inside of you that where you care about your future, where you have plans, you want a family, you want a home. Those things weren't on my radar. What was on my radar was getting high. I also never felt like I belonged. And it didn't matter where I went. That's just how I felt. You know, when I was invited to come here, I was pretty excited, but I was also pretty scared. One thing that really helped was knowing that I'd be with my Indigenous brothers and sisters on the other side of the world. And I knew that I wouldn't be judged. You know, back home, I sit on this board. It's called the Community Advisory Board to end homelessness in our community. And I thought, like, I was homeless twice. I never even told the people on this board. I just got on it because they think, well, they know that I care and I'm pretty passionate about this stuff. So for me to share these things, I've never really told people. I have family that know and friends, but not, I've never shared this publicly. You know, I turned my life around over 20 years ago. I reached out, I joined a group called Narcotics Anonymous, and I used to go and sit with people and hang out with people that had something that I wanted. So, you know, I fast forward 10 years from there, where I got a job at National Maori Housing Corporation. It's a nonprofit housing corporation where I work. And it was sort of, we had 6 or 7 people that worked really hard. We had over 300 homes. At that time, we were getting $2.3 million in the form of subsidy that came from the federal and provincial government, and that was to offset some of the costs. But that number was declining year after year, where in 2017 we'll receive $100,000. The need for affordable housing, like everywhere else, continues to grow. You know, when I think back to the staff that we had, I guess about 6 or 7 people, like I said, that worked really hard, but we had no direction. There was no planning, and it wasn't sustainable. And it reminded me so much of my life. And So I guess that's what told me that I'm going to have to reach out and get some help and try and understand how we can change Namarin housing. So what I'm going to talk about, my presentation, are 5 points that I feel really changed the trajectory of Namarin housing and helped us to get us to where we are today, where, you know, we've grown to 24 full-time staff, but we get a lot less money. We've taken our housing from 300, and when I say we had these 300 homes, a third of them were uninhabitable. Now we have 450. So the first thing I want to talk about is collaboration. So we knew that collaboration was going to be important. So the first thing that we did was we joined the Chamber of Commerce, a business organization in Regina. We thought we would gain some different perspectives there, that we would meet people that we otherwise wouldn't meet. Felt that if we were going to be a part of this community, that we had to be involved in things that weren't just about housing. We wanted to learn from the business community how we could do that. It was pretty unfamiliar ground for us. And like I say, when I think back to my life, I knew that we had to be a part of these things. You know, when I talked earlier about not feeling like I belonged, I was the only non-Caucasian person at the Chamber of Commerce. It would be about a year later, I got on the board of directors. That was a little tough to go to these meetings and, you know, try and participate. I couldn't vote. I could participate in discussions, but I couldn't vote. A short time after I got there, a young East Indian guy got on the board, and he couldn't vote either. Now, this is 10 years ago. It's not like it's 50 years ago. We both got into leadership positions on the board, and we changed that. By the time we left, those positions could vote. You know, we got to connect with so many people that really wanted to, I think, understand what we faced as an Indigenous organization, what we faced as an affordable housing provider. We now see the business community as champions for Namarin housing. As time went on, we reached out to another group, to actually a couple of government departments and another nonprofit. And I think because of that willingness to collaborate and us being a part now of the business community in Regina, we were able to, well, really, it just seemed easier to put together a project. So what we did is we met with these government departments and this other community-based organization or nonprofit, and we opened what we call our Mother Baby Project. The government has given it a name. They call it Raising Hope. So to get into this place, you have to be drug addicted, you have to be pregnant, or have just lost your child to the system. Now, some of the people that are in there, they'll still have a strong desire to go out there and get high, and they do that sometimes. But these other young moms will step up, and it's also staffed 24/7. So they'll step up, and that baby is safe. They're not going to lose it to the system. You know, and when I think of all the stats that the government uses and other organizations use, and while stats are important, we didn't do it based on stats. And if we told the government or any of the partners why we really did it, I don't think they would have understood. But at Namrand, the reason we did it is we wanted to teach these young women how to love and how to accept love, and that it didn't mean sex. It just meant unconditional love. And we've been open not quite 3 years now, and we've had 30 clean births and 12 children reunited with their families. So stats aside, all just kicked to the side. You know, like we've affected the lives of so many Indigenous people with this project that it is our favorite. It's my favorite. You know, in fact, today I had just a phone call meeting before I came here where we're looking at expanding. The place we have now is 12 suites. We're looking at purchasing an 18-suite apartment because the need is there. You know, it takes me to my next slide. Diversity. So this photo is not all of our staff, it's some of the staff and some of the board. So about 8 years ago, the Chamber of Commerce has a Paragon Business Award, and it was the first year that they issued an award for diversity, and we won the award. And it was really weird because we didn't think we were diverse. I mean, we were like a half a dozen Indians, a white guy, and a black lady, and we got a diversity award. You know, and we just thought, like, I don't know that we're diverse. I think maybe we're different. But we took it. And, you know, I would say that we're diverse now. You know, with our 24 full-time employees and 4 part-time, we have Asian and South Asian and Jamaican Canadian and Indigenous and Caucasian. We really think we are diverse now. But we actually sponsor that award now. We've sponsored that award for the past 5 years. Because like I'd said, we wanted to be a part of the community. We want to be a part of the business community as well. Because with the property that we owned and the places where we wanted to go, we sort of had to push our way in the door. And once we got in, you know, we sort of had to make ourselves feel at home. And so that's why we sponsored this award. So, you know, collaboration along with diversity, we feel really helps us come up with the creative solutions that we need to move our organization forward and to make our community better. Now, creativity can come, I think, when you're least suspecting it. I always say that's why I have to really pay attention to what's going on. So I'm going to go back about 8 years, and I received a phone call. It was from my friend Rick. He was calling me to tell me that he and his wife Tracy had a baby girl. Pretty exciting phone call. It's about 2 or 3 days later, Rick phoned again, or so I thought. His name showed up on my phone. But it was his wife Tracy. And she said, I want you to come to the hospital and see Rick. He took sick. So I went there. Well, Rick was real sick. He was in a coma. He was in the intensive care unit. I remember all his brothers and sisters were there and their families. There was 37 plus me in the waiting room. I stayed with them for a couple of days. You know, I'd get to go in and visit Rick. And then one day, I was in there with one of the other brothers, and this nurse looked at me, and I didn't look like any of them. I was lighter skinned and a lot smaller. And they kicked me out. And Rick did get out of the hospital eventually, but I never forgot that. This family from all over northern Saskatchewan, staying in motels and hotels and eating takeout and eating in restaurants and really getting together in the waiting room. So it was probably about a year later that we came across an apartment building. Happened to be about 5 or 6 blocks away from the hospital. We bought the apartment building and we furnished it. We renovated it, we furnished it. We furnished it with, also with pots and pans and linens. And we rented out to people that are in town for medical reasons, whether it's for themselves or for family members. So since we've opened, we've served over 12,000 families from every province and territory in Canada. When we did it, we thought, this would really help our community. We didn't realize that to what extent. We're on the preferred vendor list with the federal government. The different bands, we call them, I guess, different First Nations from across Canada, they know about us. This is where they send their people. We charge $100 a night. They're 1-bedroom apartments. When I look back, when we first did this, we did it just to, like I say, for our community. But looking back, they now call these social enterprise, and this was our first. As we were playing in this real estate game, we thought it would sure be nice to maybe invest in some commercial real estate. So we started looking, and about a year after the look started, we came across about a 45,000 square foot commercial piece of property. It's a mall. So we bought the mall. Now, in the mall, our anchor tenant is a community clinic. But there wasn't a pharmacy, and we thought, I've never been to a clinic, especially one this size, where there isn't a pharmacy. So we thought maybe Namarine can open up a pharmacy. So when you're a non-profit housing provider, imagine what it's like to open up a pharmacy. There's a lot of hard and unfamiliar work. There's a lot of meetings. There's a lot of convincing because, well, there's a lot of drugs involved and a lot of money involved, and you got, a few people that don't know anything about it. So we even had to work with our own board to allow us, or allow me, to set up another board with the majority of it being pharmacists. Then we had to convince a national drug company that we were okay. Once everybody understood really what we were up to, it really took off. The first year or so was pretty slow, but now we have 2 full-time pharmacists, a part-time, full-time pharmacy technician, and a part-time pharmacy technician. It's a real success for us. And, it's allowed us to work with other community-based organizations and supply them with prescription drugs. So one of the other things that we thought was important was the culture at Namarine. We work hard at what we think is a culture of care. I remember, it's another story, it's going back a while, but we got this phone call, and the lady's name is Raylene, and it was a call from her school, or from her daughter's school. And they said, you got to come down to the school, Raylene. Ashley's been hurt. It was her little girl, about 7 years old, I think. So Judith, one of the other women at work, said, well, I'll give you a ride. So they left. And we were just wondering, standing around wondering what really happened. And then a lady came in to pay her rent. And she said she'd never seen so many police cars. We have a perimeter road that goes around our city. She said she saw 5 police cars and they were really going fast and sirens were going and she wondered what happened. I honestly, I still get a chill when I think of it. This other lady, another lady came in to pay the rent and she said the same thing. So I jumped in my car and started to head the direction of Ashley's school. And I got a call from Judith, and Judith said, "Robert, it's bad. You've got to come." So anyway, Ashley was hit and killed that day. And I don't know what it was like for Raylene, but we lost her to alcohol. She quit her job and got drunk for a few years. Through Facebook, though, we found her one day. She'd moved about 500 miles away from Regina, and she was getting tired of being drunk. She wanted to change her life, and she started to go to AA. Then she started to miss her family in Regina. We were we were stalking her on Facebook. She moved back to Regina. We watched. She started going to AA meetings in Regina. So I can't remember which one of us sent her a friend request. She accepted, and then we asked her if she'd like to come back to her old job because we sure missed her, and we'd really like to have her back. So Raylene is back, and she still works for us, and she's a valuable member of our organization. So that's the culture of care. Now, one of the other things we've done is we thought, okay, we have to do something that affects everybody. It can't be just people that need a little bit of help once in a while. So we implemented a safety program. So everybody in our organization has a safety certification. The people in our property management department have a supervisory certification, meaning that they can train new employees or train contractors in our safety programs. So we have these little books. They're called field level hazard assessment books. So when you go to a job, you have to write down all the potential hazards, and everybody else on the job site has to initial. We pass that book around, so not the same guy writing. It's going over pretty good. You know, we've even offered it to our main contractors. We've provided the safety training for them. I remember one day walking down the hall and meeting one of the contractors, and he said that if it was any other company, that he felt that it would be just more paperwork. But with it being Namrin, he knew that we were doing this because we cared. It felt pretty good, you know, because that is why we did it. I remember one of the young employees, about 24 years old, you know, not a long working career, but he said this was the first time in his life that he felt valued as an employee. So the culture, we believe that the culture of our organization really is key to our success. In fact, I've been taking some job coaching, and it's about how to maintain this culture as we grow. I mean, we've grown 400%. So to maintain that culture takes some real work, and I tell you, this coach really pushes and stretches me, and it's tough, but you know, it's really worth it. And you know, I think of this, it's Peter Drucker quote that says, culture eats strategy for breakfast every day. And so we changed it around a bit, and we said that, you know, culture infused with creativity, diversity, and collaboration eats it for lunch, breakfast, dinner, because for us it really does. So this is where I live. This is Regina, my community. It's a nice place, but you know, we have these problems. We have like any place else. And you know, that's why when I talk about collaboration, why did we do it? For our community. Diversity for our community. Creativity for our community. The culture, everything's for our community. So this is what's taken us to this. This is where we are now. This is our next project. So when we started talking about this about 5 years ago, we were told that we were crazy. We could never do it. It's not Toronto, it's not Vancouver. We were pretty aware of that. We went knocking on doors. We tried to buy a piece of property from the city. They wouldn't sell it. We went to the province to buy a piece of property. They wouldn't sell it. But while we were doing this, we had assembled a group of, I always call them all-stars, the engineers and architects that kept working on this project for us and working for free. And you know, that collaboration thing that we talked about and being a part of the business community, to get these people, we think that they've done, I don't know, probably around $1.2, $1.3 million worth of work for free because they believe in what we do. So anyway, there was a couple of years ago, the provincial government decided they were going to sell this abandoned building through a competitive bid process. We put in our offer and we were successful. We paid $3.75 million, no public funds, all ours. Felt pretty good. Then we went to the city and we said, look, we own this land. We want that parking lot. This is our plan. It was pretty hard for them to say no, I guess. They had a special meeting, a special motion was made at council where it wasn't a competitive bid. They made a motion to sell it to us. We paid $3.25 million for it. We own 26,000 square feet of downtown Regina. We're competing now with the big developers. In fact, once word got out that we had this land, the developers came knocking to see who the heck we were, and it was a little scary. These guys do this all the time, and it was pretty new for us. But so we've got this land now. It's going to have 170 units of affordable housing. It'll have parking for 500 vehicles. It'll have a grocery store. It'll have retail space. And it'll have a daycare. So it's sort of a self-contained community. We see this as really taking us to the next level. I mean, this is by far the biggest project that we've ever done. But when this place is full and up and running, we'll be able to put an additional $1.5 million back into affordable housing every year. And as the mortgage goes down, the revenues go up, or what we get to keep goes up, and that much more that we can sink into affordable housing. We really see this as key to taking us to that next level. You know, I think back to when we were first getting started, and we sent a check, a certified check to the city for $150,000 and an offer to purchase this parking lot. And I remember getting a call from a guy probably about 6 weeks later, and it was like, what are you doing? You know, they couldn't believe that we did this. We thought we were being really creative, but they thought we were just a little out there, I guess. But anyways, now we own it. We're planning on starting construction the spring of 2018. So, you know, I think, why do we do it? We do it for our community. You know, it's like all of you. Why do you do what you do? It's for your community. I'm so grateful to be here today, and thank you for listening.